So this is Gary mango. It's been a very good year. Got a little bit of the crop left here. The fruit has been very popular. It's small, but it's sweet, delicious, and has a coconut flavor. So we have a big treat today. Gary Zill is here to talk about the Gary mango.
My father, when I was quite young, I think it was probably 6 or 7 or younger, I don't remember, had a Pettigrew tree in his yard. We're not sure the origin of it. It came from somebody's collection on the West Coast, but I really liked the flavor. It's very unique. And I was really disappointed when my father cut the tree down because the fruit ripened so unevenly. And it was quite a few years later that a tree came up in the nursery in the grove by just somebody had eaten the fruit and threw the seed out, and it tasted very similar to the Pettigrew. And it ripened evenly and was extremely sweet, but it had that unique flavor. In the grove where I grew up and lived until I left home, of course, we would leave trees that weren't in the way where we could mow around them to let them, I mean, we had our grafted trees in rows, but when people, ate a mango and threw a fruit down, they would sometimes germinate, and we just try to let them go as a way to look for new varieties. We selected a number of other varieties over the years from these chance seedlings that came up. And we started, had a kind of a system where if we liked it, we'd take a knife and carve an O on the trunk, and if we didn't like it, we'd mark an X. That was my brother Walter and my father, Lawrence Zill, and myself. And then at the end of the season, if a tree had 3 X's on it, it was cut down to get it out of the way after it had fruited for the first time. This one had just been left to grow, and when it started fruiting, I especially liked it. And anyway, that was the end of the season. Walter was walking around with a chainsaw. That was part of his responsibilities, was to clear out those trees. And he came up to me and he asked me one day, he said, Gary, that tree, and he described it, I know what he was talking about. He said, I asked Dad about it, and he said he didn't think it was all that worth keeping, and neither did Walter. And I said, yeah, Walter, I know. It doesn't have any color. It just turns yellow. It's small, and the seed's probably a little too big for the size. But I said, I think it's my favorite mango. He said, okay, we'll call it the Gary mango. So that's the origin of the tree. I'm quite sure it was either a Carrie seed or a Pettigrew seed, most likely Carrie seed that was pollinated by the Pettigrew. It's the only way it could have gotten that distinct aroma in it. And the two trees happened to be growing close to each other, or adjoining each other at the time before my father cut it down.
In the early 1970s, the original Gary mango tree fruited for the first time in the Zill nursery in Boynton Beach, Florida. Gary is a vigorous, medium-sized tree with a somewhat spreading growth habit. We recommend annual pruning to keep the trees under 12 feet tall so they don't crowd neighboring trees, and to make fruit picking easier. Gary is disease resistant, but because its fruit are small and the tree is not reliable, it's not a commercial variety. So I'm looking for the mangoes that are fairly plump and that the color is turning slightly yellow. These mangoes really don't color up very much, but when you start looking at them, you can notice slight differences in color. And so that's what I'm going for right now. So let's see what fish we have in the net. So here's some right here. These will all ripen up very nicely. So that's Gary. How I know I've gotten a mango at the perfect time is when it has a hollow stem. That's a sign that this fruit is no longer getting any nourishment from the tree. So it can ripen as well off the tree as it can on the tree, and often it ripens better off of the tree. Carrie fruit usually ripens in June. The skin color of ripe fruit can be yellow, but for us it's greenish yellow or light green. Carrie is widely appreciated for its soft, fiberless, juicy flesh, which has a rich coconut flavor. Tasting evaluations consistently rate Carrie as excellent.